Finally, so weekend for the Sunbelt Game of the Year. JMU hosting ODU. We talk about it next. Locked on Sunbelt.
You are Locked on Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, we got my buddy Rocky Boiman from ESPNU. He will have the call with Jay Alter on 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. JMU and ODU has lost a little bit of its luster after ODU got hammered by Marshall last week. Nonetheless, still a lot on the line, especially if ODU wins. They are in the top spot for the Sun Belt East, as it turns out. What can we do about the penalty problem? Interesting kind of notes that Rocky goes through it. He had that Georgia Southern Miss ball game, plenty of penalties in that one, but obviously nothing like that South Alabama game the other night. And who's the most improved? Southern Miss got me on that list, Marshall on that list, App State on that list. We talk to Rocky about it next. First thing we do, though, is break down that JMU ODU game, the Sunbelt Game of the Year, with Rocky Boiman. He's got the call on ESPNU, and he is Locked on Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day. Always thrilled to have my buddy Rocky Boiman on. He is calling, along with Jay Alter, the Sunbelt Game of the Year. It is JMU hosting ODU. It is on ESPNU. The initials are going to hurt my head for the next 4 to 8 hours or so. But it should be a great ball game. 3:30 Eastern Time. Obviously, the first question, Rocky, is how much luster did this lose because ODU got their butts kicked last weekend by Marshall?
Yeah, and Dave, thanks again for having me. Always great to talk with you. You do such a great job with the Locked on Sunbelt podcast. But, yeah, I know, we had this game. We kind of, Jay and I pushed to get this game because knowing it was going to be the Sunbelt Game of the Year. And then Marshall just inexplicably has the game of their life, and obviously ODU has 5 turnovers and they lose. So yeah, maybe took a little luster off it, but I still think this is the game of the year, certainly in determining the East. I think right now, having seen most every team, I would say these are 2 of the top teams certainly in the East. So I think it'll still be a great game. It's a sold out crowd at JMU, which is a great environment. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so, the initial matchup is going to be ODU's offense because it's explosive against JMU's defense, which is outstanding. Not only one of the best in the Sun Belt, but just flat out one of the best in the country, right? Last week, JMU's offense was very inconsistent, and yet the Cajuns really could only do a couple of things. And they turned the ball over 3 times, and the Cajuns really couldn't take full advantage of that. How does ODU and Colton Joseph attack this JMU defense, which is really stingy against the run, and they're pretty good at running the football?
Yeah, it is. I mean, JMU, you look at them, and they lost a couple guys off that defense last year. JMU did that was really, really good. Eric O'Neill, I believe, one of them, and Kari Mans, I think. So, and somehow they got better. And they have, Dave, what I think is the hardest thing to have anymore in college football with the transfer portal and NIL is depth, right? Like you see a lot of these teams, even, Georgia was always so good, and Alabama, they were so good because, one of their linemen would go down and they had a 5th, a 6th, a 7th lineman on their team that could come in and be great, right? Well, now those guys, they don't want to sit the bench. They go somewhere else. So, but you look at JMU's D-line, they got 9 guys. They got 5 DNs, 4 defensive tackles, and all of them are very, very productive. So that's what makes, what they do hard is just the absolute manpower they have. But, I think ODU's offense is very unique. I mean, their whole team is unique. I mean, they're unique on defense because they play a 3-3-5, and they play it very well, which is kind of a unique front. And offensively, they're kind of unique because, they spread the field, and it's the quarterback, Colton Joseph, is making a decision every single play of whether to hand it off, whether to keep it, whether to throw it. But I think it's in the way that they kind of spread the field and they allow the decisions to be made by the quarterback, I think it's can be a tougher scheme to stop run wise. But he's in command, and if he makes the right reads and they make the right calls, I think they can have some success.
Yeah, great example of your depth at Georgia. They went from Jordan Davis to Jalen Carter and got better back in the day.
Right.
That's crazy because how good Jordan Davis was, Jalen Carter is even that much better. All right, so obviously one of the issues that ODU has had all season has been turnovers. Turnovers prevented them from beating Indiana, right? Turnovers made it a sloppy ball game against Liberty, and the turnovers finally come back to bite them against Marshall in a big way. They could not come back because they just kept on giving the ball away. How can you change that? Is that decisions? Is it the other team forcing it? Is it tipped passes that, end up in the hands of the opponent? How can you change what has been a season-long issue?
Yeah, it's been an issue. It's 15 total turnovers, and in their 2 losses, they've had 9. And and then last week having 5 turnovers. I mean, I looked it up. I mean, the chances of winning with 5 turnovers is less than 5%.
Yeah.
It's around 3. When you just lose the turnover battle, period, you only have a 27% chance of winning, right? So it's just even 1, but 5 is just indiscernible. I asked Ricky Ronnie that. I said, what is it? Is it, because they've had it in every different way possible. It's been guys fumbling. It's been some interceptions. It's been muffed punts. It's been a little bit of everything. And he had, I thought, was a unique answer, or at least a unique way to tackle the problem. Because usually a coach just says, well, we just got to be better holding on the ball. He was talking about really analyzing near foot, near shoulder. Okay. So, and like if you're getting ready to, you're a running back and you're getting ready to take a blow or deliver a blow, instead of having like 1 foot off the ground, you want to have your near foot, near shoulder to kind of go into the defender in this case. And that way it creates a little bit better ball security. And the same thing with a punt returner, that sort of thing. So I think they've made a conscious effort on that and getting that near foot, near shoulder dynamic a little bit better. But it just comes down to holding on to that thing.
So you actually want to hit with your shoulder with the ball in that arm, or do you want to be on the other hand?
No, it's more not necessarily the ball in the same shoulder, but like you want your, like say this guy's coming from here, right? I want my right foot and right shoulder down into the ground. I want my right foot up in the air and my right shoulder coming into him because it creates an imbalance. And the ball can still be over here, but you want to be able to go into that with some sturdiness.
Because that sounds like that's trying to teach somebody to do a left-handed layup. I'm telling you, Rock, I could never do a left-handed layup, and all of a sudden I did it, and my coach goes, "You did it." I said, "I did what?" He's like, "Well, do it again." I said, "Well, now I didn't do it right because you're timing it up right to go up off the right foot with the left hand." Then I just didn't think about it, and I did it. It feels like that would take a little bit of a process to teach.
Yeah, but it's something that coaches kind of preach, but I think can kind of go by the wayside, especially as a season goes on. So it's just kind of a reminder kind of thing, and something that could help that situation.
Talking to Rocky Boiman, ESPN, he's got the call with Jay Alter, JMU, ODU, ESPNU, 3:30 Eastern time. All right, let's do it the other way, because I did get to see this JMU offense. It was I've never seen a 2-quarterback system. This was 2 quarterbacks in the same set of downs, going back and forth when they played Louisville. And that was a ball game they probably should have won. Not could have. We've both been there. They should have won that ball game.
I watched that game, David, and they very much could have won that game.
Yeah.
They were going toe to toe with Louisville, and kind of, at the end there, Louisville was kind of able to take things over.
They made 2 big plays. Credit to Louisville. They made two huge plays, and they deserved to win that ball game. But they should have won the ball game. Now they've settled on Alonzo Barnett III, which makes me think maybe he wasn't quite as healthy as he could have been to start the season. Nonetheless, he has been inconsistent, missing throws, turning the ball over. He was a great story last year, Rock, right? He had lost his job, but basically because of stage fright. And the guy who comes and gets the job wins the Sunbelt, I think, newcomer of the year, Jordan McLeod. All right. He struggles to begin with, like out of the gate, like the first couple possessions. And Bob Chesney sits him down and says, "Don't worry about it. You're the guy. I'm not taking you out. Just go play." And then he settles down and has this great season, and unfortunately gets hurt on the last play of the regular season. And so he's out for the bowl game. JMU wins the bowl game anyways with like their 3rd and 4th quarterbacks. Crazy. What have you seen from him, and what's been the issue? Is he doing me like the left-handed layup, like he's thinking about it too much before he lets it go? Because some of these, I mean, you got to think, but at the same time, you got to react when you're a quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all the things you just talked about. I mean, you got to remember the guy's coming off an ACL during bowl season last year. We're in a day and age where we think everyone just recovers from that in 7-8 months, but it's not the case. Every person is different, and so I think there's a confidence issue there. I think there's also I just never liked even watching that Louisville game, just the dynamic of bringing Sluka in. It wasn't even like it was a package and like, hey, it's red zone or it's this sort of situation. It was just kind of felt random, and I think that I just don't think that the dynamic and the rhythm of the quarterback can get in a groove when you're alternating guys in a weird kind of way. So I think that's all part of it, and him getting back and being healthy and having the confidence to run and having the confidence on that zone read thing. So I think I see some good things from him. I think he's dynamic. I mean, I feel like his speed is back. If you watched that game last week, he was lead blocking on one of those plays. The acceleration he had was pretty. I was like, okay, he looks back.
I'm sure Chesney was thrilled with that move.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things you like, you don't like, but you like, because it kind of shows our quarterback is fearless. He feels good, and he's able to go out and do things like that.
All right, so let's talk about Matt Sluka, because you're the guy in the middle. You've been playing in that. You see Matt Sluka comes in, he's not passing the ball. All right, now he will somewhere along the way. They're going to play action pass. He's going to sneak a run, and he's going to throw it, and the guy's going to be wide open, and they got to hit him if that's the case. Nonetheless, he's going to run. Mostly, he's not even going to hand it off. He's going to run the football. Aren't they telegraphing that play when he comes in, or is there just nothing you can do about it? Because he can do it well, but it seems like it's been less effective because everybody knows he's running it.
Right. No, it does. When you got that guy coming in and they watch the tapes and they watch they look at the stat sheets and all that. And the numbers say he's going to be running the ball. And to your point, they'll have a random pass for him. But yeah, it does kind of tip your hand of what's going on here. I firmly believe, for everything I've kind of learned this week, it's going to be a lot of Alonzo Barnett and not as much Sluka here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Rocky Boiman. Maybe he'll answer the question, or he tries to answer it, on why teams can't come with the energy, or at least use that excuse when they do fall short and not play well, at least at the beginning of the football game. And then we ask about Ricky Ronnie. Remember, he coached under James Franklin, and how much pressure these guys are in and under. And you'll be interested. Ricky Ronnie always gives you interesting takes as well. We will do that right after I tell you about DoorDash and Supply House. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. From the Troy Trojans, no surprise, Tucker Kilgrease had a huge ball game against Texas State in that rally, down 28-7 at the end of one. They come back to win it 48-41. Kilgrease threw for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was certainly the MVP of that ball game. When the pressure was on, Kilgrease came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Tucker Kilgrease, he is certainly on a streak. And just like Kilgrease delivered for the Troy Trojans, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday on your order. Stack up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. And Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters, and their Trade Master perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's get back to our conversation with ESPNU's Rocky Boiman. He's on the call for JMU ODU. We asked Rocky about bringing that energy every week, and it may not be as simple as I thought. And we also talk about Ricky Ronnie's reaction to James Franklin getting let go. Ricky coached under James Franklin at Penn State. He has got the call of JMU ODU on ESPNU, 3:30 Eastern time. He is Rocky Boiman, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. We're talking with Rocky Boiman, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. He's got JMU ODU. All right, so one of the things that has bothered me, right, we've gotten these cliches for the last decade, has been culture. Everyone's changing the culture. We have seen a little culture shift in App State, at Marshall and USM, and we'll get to them later on. But now the cliche that I'm hearing, Rock, and you played at Notre Dame, you heard that Notre Dame education going 27% when you even lose the turnover battle. You know, that's a little humble brag. That's what he's doing there. My understanding is there would be no math today. And then you played in the NFL with the Bengals and the Titans. I'm hearing a lot of excuses from these coaches about not bringing the energy. Even heard it from Baker Mayfield, right? They were getting their butts kicked by the Eagles, made it a game, but if they played a little better to begin with, maybe they don't lose. Heard of the same thing from James Franklin before he got fired against UCLA, because they were getting blown out before they made it a game. And even heard it from Matt Campbell, who I don't think they were getting blown out by Cincinnati, but lost. To me, that sounds like an excuse why they were getting their ass kicked in the first 20 minutes, getting outplayed and outcoached. How can you not be ready to play a football game, right? I'm sure you guys aren't even ready and healthy until Thursday or Friday of the next day. And if we're doing college football, maybe it's Wednesday or Thursday. So I get that, and it is physically taxing. But it's not 162 games where maybe you don't bring it every game, and the ones who do make it in the Hall of Fame, and the ones who don't do it quite as well make all-star teams and so on, all right? So I don't get that. Explain to me how, when you're playing 12 games a year, or in the NFL 17 games a year, how you don't bring the energy each and every time, because that boggles my mind.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's not like baseball, where you're playing every day and it's kind of monotonous. But the season, as I've experienced many times, it can be a slog, especially with the injury aspect. I mean, literally after, even going into week one, no one feels 100%. So, all week is just, it's taxing mentally when you're like, God, I got a hamstring, but I got to go practice, and I got to push it, but not push it too much. And, and then I got to worry about the scheme and how do I fit in, so I think mentally a lot of things can build up but you're right. It's up to a player to find a way, and a coach, more importantly. I think that's where a coach, a good coach, can really come in and find a way to trigger that thing mentally. I always think the coach that finds a way to, I've always felt the best coaches are psychologists, are the ones that can dig deep inside the head of their players and see what their mental state is and adjust accordingly. And, so for a lot of that, it can be as you're beat up and it's things are kind of monotonous and it's the same, it's kind of Groundhog Day. I just think it's kind of natural for a little bit of a lack of energy to seep in, but it's up to the coach. It's up to the good players, the leaders on the team to find a way to get those guys and say, hey, we got to flush that out of our head, because to your point, we only get 12 of these opportunities. We don't get 60 of them. So that's what needs to happen. The good teams find a way to do that.
Well, then how do they turn the switch on, and how can't they turn it on sooner? I don't know if halftime's the deal or whatever. But again, Tampa Bay was getting their butts kicked by Philadelphia and had a chance to win it at the end, right? Penn State had a chance to win it at the end. After that, that game was a blowout. And again, I think Cincinnati and Iowa State was kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
How do you guys turn the switch on when it was off?
I think embarrassment can flip a switch pretty quick, Dave. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, wait a minute now. This is, I think the natural human tendency sometimes can be, do just enough to be able to get the result you want. But, and then you figure out, wait a minute, I gotta give more here. We got to give more. And then some of it too is figuring out what the other team is doing and adjusting that, game plan wise. So, again, the good teams find a way to get it done. The good coaches find a way to trigger their players.
We're talking to Rocky Boiman, ESPNU. Him and Jay Alter have the call of JMU ODU. Let's go back to that ballgame. 3:30 Eastern time on ESPNU. All right. You talked to Ricky Ronnie. He was a disciple of James Franklin, assistant coach on that squad on Penn State. And Franklin got fired for basically having 3 bad weeks. The guy was like 1 play away from playing for the national championship. Talk about things changing fast. All right. He's a good coach, maybe not great, but he's a good coach. And I think, we've seen, over the last couple of weeks, we saw, I think Mike Desimo kind of got peer pressured going for it against JMU, kind of scared money, don't make money. Instead of kicking it and taking a 10-point game into the halftime, he went for it and they didn't get it. And then I think, ODU kind of got psyched out against Marshall for whatever reason. And the other thing is Major Applewhite had a meltdown on the sideline, maybe costing his team a game after getting Arkansas State to jump off sides and give him a first down. It feels like there's an immense amount of pressure on some of these guys. And, if Penn State's doling out $50 million, Clay Helton's on a hot seat. Mike Desmo's on a hot seat, Major Applewhite. Now, I don't think any of these guys are going anywhere because these schools don't have that kind of cash. But are these guys are coaching for their job each and every game? And that feels difficult to do. If you're not concentrating on the game and you're thinking about, 1-5, I think Major Applewhite lost it because he was 1-5. That's what I think happened.
There's no doubt because it's such a bizarre scenario. And Ricky Ronnie told us this yesterday. I thought he gave a great analogy. He's like, name another profession where a scenario like this happens. He's like, let's say you're in a top sales company, and your top salesman, the guy who's been at the very top like for 12 years, has 3 bad weeks and doesn't meet his quota. And you not only fire him, but you say to the boss, but we also got to pay him $50 million for him to leave. You'd say that is insane. You would never do that. But this is what college football is, which is why these coaches do kind of lose their minds at times because it's so. The pressure is so intense, and everybody's living and dying these games, and you got irrational people above you that can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing and see some of the good things that happened in the past and see the path and all that. So I can understand it's a tough business. But look, that's why it pays so well.
Right.
It's kind of what Ricky Ronnie said, we make good money to be able to live through this. So don't feel sorry for us, but it's a tough thing. And again, I just don't know another profession out there where it's treated this way, where again, a couple of 2 weeks, 3 bad weeks in the course of years can get you fired and a huge buyout. It's wild.
Let's take one more time out. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with ESPNU's Rocky Boiman. We will talk to him about trying to solve the penalty problem. It's been brutal the last couple of weeks, and we see who is the most improved in the Sunbelt. We'll do that right after I tell you about Rougiet and FanDuel. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra and Cialis, maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiet's Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. And if you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. And FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with ESPNU's Rocky Boiman. He's got the call of JMU and ODU. We asked him to try and figure out what to do about the penalty problem because it is getting outrageous. Not that the refs were wrong, but can you throw a flag each and every time? My goodness. And then we asked him about most improved. Who's most improved in the Sunbelt? USM, Marshall, App State. Who do you guys have? Let me know who you think is the most improved. Let's get back to it and wrap it up. Our conversation with ESPN's Rocky Boiman. He is Locked On Sunbelt. So then I'm going to ask you this question. What's a better job? Indiana at $6 million, because Curt Cignetti is going to get a raise, or Penn State at $8 to $10 million, whereas say he goes to the playoffs this year, wins a ball game. He's been to the playoffs 2 straight years at Indiana, but then ends up not making the playoffs for 3 straight years. They're not going to fire him, but you miss the playoffs for 3 straight years at Penn State. The next guy, he's done. He's gone. Right. What's a better job? Yeah, although you get the 50, you get the $50 million at the end of the Penn State job, apparently.
Yeah, it's not bad. I guess it all depends on what you value as a coach. If you value legacy and having your name mentioned among the greatest in the history of college football, then you take that big job and you accept the consequences that I can have a great year this year and get fired the next. But if you're a guy that says, hey, look, I love this profession. I want to build something, build a legacy. I mean, look at Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I mean, he's had a million opportunities to go, but I think he likes his niche there. Also, let's be honest, if as long as he wins, 7-8 games, he's probably going to be fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's not going to win a national championship there, but maybe that's not the greatest goal. Maybe it's to have a lasting legacy in a place.
They're perennial top 25 team. They're top 25 team every year.
Exactly. And have a place where, you're not moving all over the country every year and your family can, your kids can go to the same high school and all that sort of thing. So I guess it just depends on what you want to chase as a coach.
All right. A few more questions here for Rocky Boiman on the call of JMU, ODU, ESPNU, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, along with Jay Alter. All right. You had the Georgia Southern Miss ball game. All right. And that seemed to be a blowout until Georgia Southern decided to wake up in the second half and actually came back. But that game was penalty filled. And then God bless you. I hope you didn't have to stick there and watch that Cajun South Alabama game because there was 29 points, Rocky, and 25 penalties. All right. How do we solve the penalty problem? And ironically enough, they missed a big penalty. That's why Major Applewhite went nuts. But again, I don't think that would have changed it too much. How do we solve the penalty problem? Because I would tell you, for the most part, the referees weren't wrong. They were kept on jumping off sides. They kept on holding. This was clear as day. How do we solve the penalty problem? Is there a solution?
Well, to quote Troy Aikman, nothing will ruin a broadcast quicker than these yellow flags coming out. I mean, it's just mind-numbing. I mean, that Southern Miss Georgia Southern game, you want to get, as a broadcast, you want to get in a rhythm and you want to be able to point things out and give, but you can't because somebody's given a call and you can't talk over the ref. So from my perspective, I absolutely hate it. I would rather they keep the flags in their pockets. I think if you want to really dig deep into this, you wonder with, transfer portal and and kids being here a year and there a year, do you really learn a system? And if you don't really know a system, do you adhere to the fundamentals of that system, or does that cause you to hold a guy or clip a guy or something? I don't know. Maybe that's reading too much into it. But I also know, the referees are incentivized to throw the penalty rather than not throw it. They would rather, and in my opinion, I think they would rather in their reviews, guys say, on that one, you shouldn't have thrown it rather than, hey, that's a penalty, you missed it. I just think in their heads, they're a little bit more incentivized, especially with replay, to throw that penalty. So all that added up together, I just wish, I think the game should be determined on the field, and it's just from a broadcasting standpoint, I hope the officials understand how people view a college football game anymore. The amount of people that sit down and singularly watch their television for 3.5 hours and don't change it is zero, right? So everybody's watching the game and they got the phone in their hand, and then well, if something happened, I'll switch over to a Netflix series I've been watching, and then you know what I mean? But so you got to have things going on. You can't have a bunch of dead time, or it ruins the experience.
All right. On a side note, maybe we'll wait for how much you hate defensive pass interference on another episode. Maybe we'll just do that together, because I hate defensive pass interference. But oddly enough, it's interesting. You say they're incentivized. The deeper you go into the NFL playoffs, the less penalties we see. The Super Bowl tends to be the least penalized game all year long. They go like, that's the first penalty of the game, and we're 5 minutes to go in the first half. It happens all the time.
Well, and you see in the NBA, they try to keep it less physical of a game until you get to the playoffs, that sort of thing.
Sure.
You know
that may be the opposite. Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up here with Rocky Boiman from ESPNU. He's got the call, JMU ODU, 3:30 Eastern time with Jay Alter. Most improved, quickly. All right. You saw Southern Miss. All right. They're 2-0. Marshall has turned things around as they settled on their quarterback and they got their defense figured out. And all of a sudden, Dowell Loggins is a 10.5-point favorite with App State this week. And if they win, they've got their 5th win of the year. These are obviously the most improved teams. What have you liked? What have you seen so far this year in the Sun Belt?
Yeah, I think what Tony Gibson has done at Marshall is nothing short of incredible. To go, 70+ new players. And again, like when Charles Huff left, he took most of the good players that were there and kind of restarted that thing. So I think for him for Tony Gibson to come in and get that ship righted, I did not have much confidence in them at all at the beginning of the season. But they find Carlos Del Rio Wilson, and you find the trigger man. Usually, good things happen, and you nail that position, good things are going to occur. So I think him, but. Southern Miss, even still just, bringing in some proven players, but I think that roster is legit. I think their defense is really, really good. They're certainly in control of the West. I like what Dowell Loggins has done as well, but I would say from a surprising standpoint, I would say Marshall at this point.
Yeah, if somehow the Cajuns win and ULM wins, 5 teams in the West are all 2-1. If ULM upsets Troy and the Cajuns win at home, which, again, they're both underdogs at home, you got 5 teams that are all 2-1 in the Sun Belt, regardless of what their overall record is. So
and
we could be in for quite the finish.
Yeah, this is for another time, David, but I think it's the beauty and the curse of the Sun Belt is how deep it is, and it's the deepest, G5 conference, period, end of story. I've been saying that for years. But the fault of that is they just kill each other off, right? They just want to beating up on each other, and at the end of it's hard to get a team to emerge as a college football playoff contender because every team is good and they just wind up knocking each other off.
He's Rocky Boiman. He's got the call with Jay Alter, JMU ODU Sunbelt play, some game of the year. Hopefully it lives up to that billing. Really appreciate your time, Rocky. Thank you so much. Enjoy the call and enjoy the game.
Dave, you're the best, man. Thanks so much.